Breathing in diesel exhaust fumes is like walking into a fire without a mask. Over time, those toxins lead to cancer. Protect yourself with Magnegrip, the easiest, most reliable exhaust removal system that features a true 100% seal to eliminate diesel exhaust fumes. To get free grant assistance, visit magnegrip.com.
Attention first responders, ready for a new challenge? You can turn your leadership skills into deliciousness by becoming a Firehouse Subs restaurant owner. First responders will receive a $100,000 cash incentive to help open their restaurant. Continue serving after service. Visit firehousesubsfranchising.com today.
Good evening, and welcome to another edition of everyone's favorite podcast, favorite radio show, where we play none of the hits, but we have great conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another edition of the Larry Conley Radio Show. And as usual, I have the, we'll put pleasure in quotes, of introducing our fearless leader. We're introducing the man whose name is on the moniker. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Deputy Chief of Training in Collinsville, Illinois. It's Larry Conley.
Now to hire you somebody else.
I think your mic's on, Mom.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry. That was really good.
Y'all say that out loud? Anyway, hello, and welcome back to another edition of the podcast, or as back in the day before they invented podcast, we call it the radio show. And nostalgically, we're not going to let that go. It's going to always be the Larry Conley, because, you know, that's something that's a lost art. You know, back before there was TV, probably back in Mom's time, the kids would just gather around the old field code radio and just listen to the radio shows and use their imagination to imagine what was going on, because that's all you had. You had imagination. They were talking, you imagining how these people looked and what kind of things they were going through. But now everything is just all visual, and you see everything, you hear everything. It's just high def. You get to see the pimples and the boogers and all that. It's crazy. It's just crazy. It's too much. It's just too much. However,
I did the best I could.
Right, but we
you didn't have to say boogers.
We didn't have to say boogers. You just said boogers. Okay, I'm not gonna say boogers again.
Just because you already said boogers.
Right. That used to be one of my stage names back in the day. Anyway, I was the booger with the sugar, but I paid my way through college back then. You know, community college that was.
That's how popular that was.
The College of Arts, they didn't even have crafts.
Right. So the booger with the sugar only paid for JUCO. So, but now that I got a job, I could pay for a regular college, you know, and finish that up. I'll be finishing that master's up in a couple of months in December. So I'm looking forward to that. And so I'm finally catching up with our esteemed guest tonight, Dr. David Griffin. So one day you might be hearing me say Dr. Larry Conley. I mean, I'll be at the Shady Pines retirement home when I'm saying it. But I'm almost done. Just 2 more classes. You know, so we'll see. Time will tell. But I always tell people, don't ask. People always say, are you going for the PhD? I say, don't ask me that in the middle of the master's, because right now I'm tired of writing papers. I'm tired of reading. I'm trying to master one thing at a time. So we'll see. But dear friends and acquaintances that I know have done it, and so that gives me hope that it definitely can be done. Another thing is and David Griffin. I got 2 Davids on tonight, so I'm about to make these differentials. But excuse me, the Dr. David, maybe I'll call him Dr. David. That'll make it different than Brother David. It'd be Brother David and Dr. David tonight. BD.
Because I'm the Dr. Jockenstein.
Right. Operating on your mind. But Dr. Griffin probably knows, like I know, that back in the day when you first came on the job, you didn't need a degree. You just was a good firefighter, You prove yourself as a good leader of firefighters, and then somebody one day say, "Hey, you could be an officer." And then maybe one day, if you did that well enough, you probably could be a chief, and then you just walked it up. And it's the best blue collar thing going. I mean, you just fought fires, led people, did some heroic stuff, and one day you might become the fire chief. However, things change. They all of a sudden want some education and some paper. And the reason the paper is so important is because, like it just in this example right here, Dr. Griffin and I can go for the same job. You know why he's going to win? Because he's Dr. Griffin, CTOEFO LMNOPQRSTUVHYZ. He got all the alphabets behind his name. And the more accreditations and stuff you get, unfortunately, they look at that. Now, I'm not hating on that unless it's certain people. But I'm not hating on it with Dr. Griffin, because Dr. Griffin has had that perfect balance. And that's what I always strive to have, is that balance between still recognizing the art and beauty of knowing how to fight fire at its core. That's what firefighters are. Knowing how to fight fire, knowing the art and discipline of fighting fire, the science of it, making smart decisions, things of that sort. Then getting the education. There are a lot of people who got the education, but I wouldn't trust them. No, I wouldn't trust them in the defensive stands in the fire. You'd be like, you stay way across the street, because you have no clue what you're doing. You're going to get some people hurt. So, but if they can move up the ranks because of their education, those people could become your boss. And that's kind of, that's, you might have the paper, but you just ain't going to get the same respect. So one thing that I know about Dr. Griffin, and what I've always tried to do myself, is you want to have that balance. You want to be able to get the respect of the peers that you fought along the side with fighting fires with, along with, being able to rock and roll with the education. And they're both necessary now. That's the climate we live in. You could say, man, I done fought many fires. I've been saved many lives. Yeah. But do you have these alphabets behind your name? Nope. That's what you're gonna get. They literally do that at the interview desk. So with that being said, you have to learn how to balance that and understand that that's the holistic firefighter these days. And there's really nothing wrong with the education. I'm not knocking it. If I thought something was totally wrong with it, I wouldn't be doing it myself. And a lot of mine is just a personal thing. I'm too old to be trying to say, I'm trying to be the, I don't know, fire chief of the world or something. It's okay. Mine was more of a personal bucket list I had to finish when the kids got old enough. But because with me, I started helping make kids. I used to make many mistakes. I started having kids. I didn't have. I don't want to. And I saw how they got here. I respect all respect to women who have children, because Uncle Larry can't do that. However, but having said that, now you got that responsibility, and with that responsibility, you got to take care of business. And I took care of business. My kids are grown. Everybody's doing well, successful. Got grandkids now. So now I can go back and finish what I started. And so I'm getting a kick out of finishing what I started. So whatever reasoning that you have, or whatever motivation, the education is going to be real important. I tell all new firefighters these days, they'll say, well, what would you recommend, Uncle Larry? You've been in the business for 32 years. What would you recommend? Get the education. And then the second thing, the reason you have to get the education too, is because we don't have the same fires we used to back in the day. It's not as frequent. Now, it only take one fire to, do some damage to maybe you, or if you don't do it right. However, it's still not as frequent. So since it's not as frequent, then you're not going to maybe have the same savvy and experience as maybe some of our predecessors had. So that's another reason that you want to balance that practical with the book sense as well. Because back in the day when I was trying to do school, they used to say, "Well, you can't put Firehouse with a book."
Mm.
I know that much. They at least taught me that much at junior college. I knew that much. But you can't be that one side. You can't be all. You can't put Fires Out with a book, and you can't be, all the other side to where you all about the book, but not about too scared to go fight a fire. Neither one of them are going to give you the balance that you need to do our job successfully. It requires both, and so that's why I don't mind rubbing shoulders with people like Dr. Griffin, Dr. Dennis O'Neill, who actually inspired me to get back in school, and just some of the greats around our great industry, the fire service industry, and people like Dr. Griffin that we're going to have come on speak in a few minutes. I mean, he's smart enough to do anything he wanted to do in any industry, and he's a firefighter at heart. And that's what I like about our business is that we have a lot of people who are great authors, motivational speakers, and just have a myriad of different talents. But they choose the fire service, and it's just kind of cool to me that when you could be anything you want to be, and you choose to be a firefighter, and then you expand on that through education, through teaching and things of that sort, it just brings a whole lot more to our business. And so that's why I get a kick out of this industry. It was a whole, there's a dog. He's a dog lover too. Yeah, right. So not only is he a doctor and a firefighter, he's a dog lover as well.
There you go.
Right.
What's his name?
That's Frenchie. That's Frenchie. She's named after Michael French, who died on June 18th.
Okay, Frenchie. What's up, Frenchie? Good to see you there. We're gonna
He had to come.
we're gonna
He had to come say
we're
hey.
gonna interview you next,
have
Frenchie.
another show with Frenchie.
Yeah, Frenchie. Yeah. We can interview Frenchie.
Finally get our ratings up. We might get
Mike at the the dog days of summer.
Nobody-
You would be like
Yeah.
Frenchie. We could ask Frenchie. Say, how is it being with Dr. Griffin being your master? Frenchie, it's rough.
There you go.
He's my master.
And Frenchie, where would you cut a vertical ventilation on the roof? Don't get me started. I'm gonna stop because you want to hear Dr. Griffin. You don't want to hear these tons of puns. Is what I call it.
Stop it.
So anyway, hey, Frenchie, if you're inside of a burning building too long, what happens? You turn into a hot dog. Stop. Hey, somebody stop me.
Somebody stop him.
Stop it.
No, really. Stop him.
Hurry up. Turn him off, Jay. Turn off the mic or something.
Right. I'm looking for the button.
I'm just saying.
I'll quit while I'm ahead, so because see, David, Dr. Griffin, what you're going to understand on here is that before I became in the fire service, we got Firehouse of love at the kitchen table at my house, my personal house growing up. It was a rough bunch, So it was a dog world. That's what it was before I came on the fire service, But anyway, so two things to live with that soapbox is kids, get your education along with learning this craft the best way you can, because it only takes one fire to take your David Griffin. Now I have something similar. And that I'm just going to bring up briefly because it's not always easy to talk about. But he lost a lot of great firefighters in Charleston years ago. And on my crew, I lost firefighter Ben Polson right before I went to Collinsville at a house fire. And so any loss is just, when you interact and do things the way we do in the intimate setting of being in the firehouse, and you lose that element, you lose a piece of yourself, and you almost never really fulfill that whole, and you just learn how to manage through it. So to that end, it's not an easy thing to navigate. But David Griffin has a great story about even that, and that's a whole nother story. But tonight we're going to discuss principal leadership, which is one of the things that he's doing now. And I thought it was a great topic because it really lines up with what David Conley and I talk about when we do G.L.U.E. And our Growing Leaders Using Empowerment model talks about their principal personal leadership. And the reason principal leadership is, in my opinion, and Dr. Griffin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not changing. It's not the latest fad. It's not the latest acronym. It's not a way to manipulate people in leading. It's just a way of being. It's the way you are. It's understanding the principle of something, sticking to that principle. And when you stick to that principle, that unchanging, people can depend on you. You can depend on yourself. I always say, if you can't get it right at the firehouse with the people that you know, then how you going to get it right out in the street with the people that you don't know? But it requires a lot of principle. And David Conley talk about that principle personal leadership. But I'm really curious to get your take on it and your what you're going to be talking about when you come to the St. Louis area. And not in Collinsville initially, but we'll talk about those dates because it's enough David Griffin to spread around. So without further ado, Assistant Chief David Griffin, Dr. David Griffin, my good friend. We don't talk to each other as much as I would like to, but when we do, we just pick up where we left off, just like we talk every day or something. So happy to have you back on the show, brother. How's it going?
It's good.
Oh, it's going well. Glad to be back on the show. It's been about 10 years, so a lot of change in 10 years with you, your family, and myself, and everything surrounding what we do. So it's been a interesting last 10 to 12 years, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Glad to be back on the show, man. Glad to talk about some principal leadership and a little resiliency and try to give some timely topics.
So I know everybody knows you. They do. And so it goes without saying. However, give us a little small background of who you are, what you're doing now, because you're definitely doing different things that you were doing 10 years ago. When I first met you, we were both at Tampa 2, down in Tampa, and you were speaking down there. I said, man, if they ever invent a thing called podcast one day and I get one, that guy's getting on my show. I'm telling you that right now. And look what's happened. Lo and behold, and behold and lo. We're here, So, anyway, so let me back it up so we can have a jump off point. So where you were in Tampa 2 to now, and I know shortly after that we had you on the show before we went visual and it was just all voice. But so where were you? What was going on now that's different than back then, and some of because you've accomplished a lot in that time frame. Go ahead.
Well, it's been an interesting journey. I know you talked about education, and I guess I can pick up there. To me, education was very important. I went to the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina, so the principles that I'm going to talk about today is from there. I mean, it was developed in 1842, so it's standing the test of time, and it's how you lead with your principles. And so education for me was big for a military education, but when I came in the fire service, I had no intention of going back to school, and then on June 18th, when we lost 9, I really saw that I needed some direction, and I was really frustrated with people who were saying that we weren't very smart, that we did some things that were incorrect. But I really didn't feel very smart, and I wanted to go back to school because I wanted to have direction. And I think that's the biggest thing about education. You touched on it a little bit. I didn't go back to school to get an EDD, a master's, and all those acronyms behind my name because I care about any of them. I could care less about that. I could leave all that tomorrow and be as happy as could be. The point is I went back because I got sick of people saying that we can't do it. We as in our department, we as in the people that responded on June 18th, we as the ones that suffered that. And because you got to think, all of us after that event, we all had to go back and get basic Fire 1, Fire 2 writ. We had none of that. And so I wanted to be one of those guys that started from nothing, who people were saying was not very smart. And I wanted to show that we, as a core group in the department I work in, we are smart. We can do this. And that's been my motivation. And that's why I still do it today. Because you're right. When you sit at the table in an interview for a position, they're going to look at those acronyms. And unfortunately, there are people on this profession that they are going to get those acronyms just so they can go get 5 bugles. I could care less about ever having 5 bugles. It means zero to me. I go to work every day because I want to make sure we do it the right way and our people are protected and they're coming home to their families. That's why I do it. The other part means nothing.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think that's where my principles come in, because my principles are what my morals, my values, my beliefs are. And that's how I lead with them. And the way I lead sometimes is very direct. My morals and my values come through, and, some people like that and some people don't, but I live my morals, I live my values. And that's something I've always done since that education came from the Citadel. And I've tried to stay true to that, even though there's been times I've veered off course because I'm human and I'm trying to find my way too. But I think the biggest point of the principal leadership is, like you said, it's not a fad. It's how you wake up in the morning. It's why I'm wearing a tie right now. It's why I'm shaved. It's why my hair is brushed. This is what I believe in my leadership style, because of the way that I was designed at the Citadel. And good, bad, or indifferent, I think that's what people come to appreciate by a leader who is authentic. And I'm not going to change my leadership style because this person says I should do this or this person says I should do that. That, to me, the transformational leadership piece is an act. I don't have an act. I have me, the authenticity, and I'm hoping that, when we talk about these principles, that does resonate through with people, and people do appreciate that, because, fake leadership is not what I'm about. I'm not about fake leadership. I'm not about making decisions to pacify people. I'm not about making decisions because it's going to upset somebody. I'm making decisions because at the end of the day, I want the people who are impacted in the organization, the fire service, to go home safely. Period. End of story. All the other stuff to me is white noise.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's lonely in that thought pattern, because that ends up. I didn't go to the Citadel, but I have a lot of the same beliefs and principles that you have, and oddly enough, whether Mom knew it or not, that's how she raised us. It was a no nonsense raising of us as boys. She was outnumbered because she had 3 boys, and later on came my sister. And so she had to get the bluff in early, because y'all gonna get bigger, taller, and stronger, and I'm about to still get. I always tell people that I'm 6 feet. I think last time I weighed myself 189. My mother is probably about 5'3" and maybe a $105, and I still don't mess with her because she principally put that principle ass whooping in my head that you could still get it, And so with that being the case, it was long lasting, but it was also a great example. I mean, when we grew up in North St. Louis, it wasn't always ideal conditions on what we had to deal with. However, our principles got us through everything. Our not yielding to, well, ain't nobody gonna give us nothing, so I guess we better take it, or anything that compromises what we were taught. Between my mother and my grandmother, there just was no give in accepting mediocrity. It was always rise to the top, always do better, always stick to it. And the true test of sticking to it wasn't when things were easy. It was when things were hard. Can you still stick to the beliefs that we taught? And I tried to pass it on to my children as well. So, so it wasn't, I'm not saying it was easy, but it was easier when I started working for the fire service to carry that on, because the fire service does require a certain amount of discipline to run into places where everybody running out. And here's another thing, I'm gonna let you continue to expound on it. But I was watching when 9/11, they had 60 Minutes had a special on it last month, and just to hear about the fire chief, from the fire chief of New York at the time all the way down, there were people who were running. There definitely were firefighters who going in, but the principle of making sure to the death that we ain't coming out, we're not going to come out unless we got everybody out, which they knew it had to be a suicide mission, but they had to give it a shot, because running out and going against the principles of what we signed up for was just, it was non-negotiable to them. So it was one of the kind of stories bring a tear to your eye, but it really epitomized what you have to do to be
Your
a
value
firefighter,
system.
and know and how strong those principles have to be. And nothing but those type of principles that kept them in, knowing that they might not come out. That makes sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think those guys were going to make hundreds and thousands of rescues, and that's what we took an oath to do, go in and make rescues. I think the biggest thing for me is to differentiate. There's times that you're not making a rescue, and that's where the educational piece comes in. And if you look at our event and you see the synopsis of that event, and you realize that there was a person in there, but we didn't realize there was a person in there until long after our firefighters went in there. We were a very aggressive department, and we did what we knew how to do, and we were good people with good intentions, and we didn't go there to make mistakes. We just were so good at a certain way of doing it, and we always extinguished fires. And on that day, we realized there was a better way of doing it, and that's where afterwards we've kind of had this risk versus reward. And I talk intelligence now. I don't talk aggressiveness. I talk intelligence, and I say that because the example I use is I got a hip replacement in December. And when I got this hip replacement, I actually interviewed some doctors to see which doctor I wanted, because I didn't want my hip to be replaced by anybody. I wanted to be by a very intelligent, tactful, precise doctor. And the first person I interviewed, I was like, yeah, you're not replacing my hip. I went to the second person. I talked to him for 5 minutes, and this guy was precise. He was intelligent. And I said, this is the person I want to replace my hip. So if you put that into the fire service, we like to use this word aggressiveness all the time, but you have to be intelligent along with that. You have to have some intelligence, knowledge, some tact of why you're doing what you're doing. If you're sending your people in blindly and you're just saying go, 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 and you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, then really what are we doing? And I'm passionate about that. And I think I have the credibility to be passionate about that because of the event that we have suffered, and we have lived that. And so when I go to places and I hear people talking about go, 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 my first question to them is, have you learned when you go, 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 what the ultimate consequence is? And most people tell me no, and that's a good thing. My goal is to make sure people, the younger firefighters who hear these messages, they understand that there's times that they cannot do that because they don't have the resources to do that. We send 50 people to a fire scene today we front load it. Not all departments can do that. They're not blessed with that staffing, right? So we have to be tactful with how we use resources based on, do you send 2 people, 3 people, 4 people? We send 50 and we're there in under 6 minutes. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because beforehand we only sent maybe 9 or 10 because that was our response package. But we learned from this event from that of what to do better going forward. And that's why we send now, 5 engines, 2 ladders, a rescue, 3 chiefs. I mean, we front load this system with accountability. I mean, we have accountability chiefs. I mean, we command incidents with drones now. We have a drone team that arrives on scene. They put a 36-inch TV on the hood of the car, and you got these 2 drone operators from our fire marshal division shooting drones up in the air, which can see inside the building, signatures. I mean, that's intelligence. That's technology. We're making decisions based on that, not because, like you said earlier, people used to say you can't put fire out with a book. I mean, you can say that, but if you look in a book, it teaches you how to apply the principles correctly. So when you get into a situation, that book knowledge should come into your form and make you think better. That's what education is. Education is to make you think differently, not just wet stuff on red stuff. It's intelligence, it's tactfulness, it's precision. And so that's my passion today, is I want people to understand that. I'm a very precise person when it comes to what I do as a speaker. I would want you to be the same thing as a firefighter, because if I come on your show and just say all of these crazy things, I'm not being precise and tactful with my message. It's the same thing with fighting fire. We want you to think through, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you making these decisions to go here, to go to the roof, to cut this hole? What's the reward for that, or what's the risk for that? And I know some people that's not popular with, and honestly, that's okay with me because I've lived through a bad event, and I can have the credibility to say that I'm going to do it the right way based on our people go home to their fathers, their mothers, their sons, their daughters.
Mm-hmm. No, I think what people mess up is that they don't realize that, and I always say, call this the ugly word, is balance. They don't want to balance. They don't want to have that balance. It's either all one way or all another way, and nothing in life successful or sustainable is like that. It like you said, ain't nothing wrong with being aggressive. I want aggressive people, but I used to tell my crew all the time, I want thinking firefighters. I could train a chimpanzee to kick in the front door and just crawl in with an inch quarter. But have we done our 360? Have we checked the heat release rates on? Have we checked the flow path? Have we seen where the neutral path is at the time? Where are we going? Do we know the wind direction? Have we taken all that in? When people say we don't have time for that, you know what I know from that person? You haven't been training enough. Because if you trained on that kind of stuff and you made that part of your package of your quick recognizing and thinking, then you could pick up on these snapshots right away. Oh, I know where the wind is. I know my exposures. I know what stage the fire is in. I know. And so then you would make a decision based on that. But when you never train on that because you think it's all stupid book stuff, then your only go-to thing is to do hide it, put it under aggressive umbrella, like that somehow the beating on the chest of that particular mantra makes you a badass firefighter. It doesn't. A lot of times make you a dead ass firefighter. And I don't mind you going to try to risk to save somebody and you just didn't make it out with them. But it's really sad when you go in and do something stupid or uninformed. Let's just say uninformed, because I don't ever want to really call anybody stupid, as far as what we do. But you do it very uninformed. And then we have to make up stories to your family and the press about what heroic thing you did when it was basically, if you had just thought a minute or not had the attitude that just go, 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 like you were saying earlier, without the intelligent thought of it and not meshing those two together, we wouldn't have to make these stories up. We can honestly say if we had to do it again, we would do the exact same thing. And God was just ready for that person at that time. I would say I would like the NIOSH report. If I was ever to die in the fire, I want the NIOSH report to say, because you know how NIOSH reports can be. They could be, thicker than this.
Oh yeah.
But I want the NIOSH report to be 1 page. God was ready for him. We can't find nothing. We really can't find anything he did to. That was yeah. I would have did that. But so it was God. God was ready for him to come home. Not 12,000 pages of mistakes and things you could have did better.
I think people don't understand about the intelligent anything. We were talking about something life or death like firefighting. Even the truly intelligent firefighter knows when to use aggressiveness, you know what I mean, in a matrix of ways to mitigate
Absolutely.
whatever the emergency is. But the aggressive firefighter may not be using intelligence. And so then, one doesn't equal the other. One uses the other properly. And so the intelligent firefighter knows when and how to use that aggressive. Because a lot of people think that if you are talking intelligence, that you are anti, being the other, and that's not true.
There's something called principles. And I think people ought to teach it a little bit more, because principles apply to whatever you do. Whether you're a firefighter or a dog catcher, or whatever, your education or whatever, there are principles that apply. And so some of the things that you're talking about are basic principles. You don't just run into the fire because, trying to look like some kind of hero or something like that. You think what's going on, what kind of fire is it, and all these kinds of things. But when you do break it down like that, then you're applying principles of how to fight a fire intelligently.
Yeah, and that's what really, that's the message. And I think Brother David, I think he said it very well. When you hear people talk about aggressiveness and they try to sway that to being more intelligent, more thinking, more precise, they think that you don't want to be aggressive. I'll relate that to mixed martial arts fighting. I was a mixed martial arts fighter. When I started as an amateur, I was aggressive and I was out of control. In my first fight, I got choked unconscious because of that. And I realized you cannot fight or play a sport aggressive, emotional, with adrenaline, because proven. So I had to back off of the emotion. I had to be tactful, intelligent, and it's a physical chess match. It's no different than going to a fire. It is a mental chess match of what do I see? What is the building telling me? What is the smoke telling me? What is my crew telling me? Where's my water supply? Where's my incident command? Where's my accountability? And when people say they don't have time, to your point, the more you do something stressful, time actually slows down in your mind. So when I would go into a fight, the fight felt like it was super slow. Like I could see the punches coming and I was able to move because I trained so much on slipping and rolling that my mind was work. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just doing. And to your point about training, the more you do things, the calmer you are. And that's essentially what we want you to do. There's no reason for you to arrive onto an emergency and yell on the radio. Yelling on the radio is not going to extinguish a fire. It's not going to fix an active shooter event. It's not going to perform CPR. Yelling on the radio stresses you out. It stresses your crew out. All the incoming units now have permission to go chaotic when there's no reason to do that. Our job is to calm the scene down. That's what we do. And those principles, that's what it starts with. You have to start with calm, intelligent decisions, and that starts in recruitment, mentoring, and coaching, and really letting these firefighters understand what their principles are early on in their career. It takes them so much further that way.
Building that culture around that, it's interesting. We were talking about our martial arts backgrounds, and I can relate on that. It was funny because when I started out, I had problems with trying to be too aggressive too, and my teacher used to always tell me technique, technique, technique. He tells me that to this day, 40 years later, because that's the thing that that always triumphs is your ability to apply your intelligence and sometimes within that, when to be aggressive with that move, when to attack, when to defend, when to move, all of that. And so it's like you said, the same when you're talking about anything, but something like that is, how are we going to do this effectively? And that shorthand in your mind does come with that training. It really does. And you have to have the value system that says that training on the front end is more important than chilling until the tones go off. And then now you're going to spring into action because you're fooling yourself into thinking, or if I just am badass enough, that's going to take care of it. And it's a lot of badass people in the cemetery. So.
And when people tell me that, like the people that frighten me are the ones that say, I'll get you water and I'll figure it out. You're not going to get them water and you're not going to figure it out. Wow. I can say that because I was the guy that used to say, I'll figure out how to put it in pump and I'll get you water. And on June 18th, I couldn't put it in pump and I couldn't get them water. And the reason I'm so passionate about that is because on the front end, if I would have trained and educated myself correctly, then I would have been able to do this. And I take ownership of that. I don't blame my department. I don't blame my captain. Because there are opportunities that you can do individually to go out there and do their training. And my favorite is always this: well, my department can't send me to the training. I mean, yeah, your department can't send you to a lot of training. My department can't send me to a lot of things. However, I should have gone before this event and taught myself Pump 1. Pump 1 and Pump 2 are $5 classes in my state, and I wouldn't invest $5 to go take the classes on my own to become a better firefighter. And what's the consequence of that? I can't do my job on a serious event. And that's really where my passion comes from the training edge, because you don't get enough calls today to understand how to work in those environments. You're just not, and that's a good thing. That means community risk reduction is working. That means our fire prevention methods are working. But we have to think on the opposite end of that, there's just not as much fire today. There's a lot of EMS, which is good because that's our job, is to go out there and help the community. But on the fire side, like for us in our organization, we fight fire about 0.08% of the time out of our calls. So when I look at the percentages, I'm a data guy. When I look at percentages and I see what we're doing, I want to make sure our people can have the training so when they go to that 0.08, or if it increases, that they're ready from, fire chief all the way down to first day firefighter. That's the importance of me. And, that's hard to balance with, working shifts, and you have pre-plans and walkthroughs and training and special ops. I mean, our guys, we have a very busy department in that we have a lot of things going on a daily basis. So, and our people do a really good job of training, educating. They go to school. Like most of our department is going to school for higher education now, either bachelor's, master's, and we have a few people going for their PhD. So it's education and training is a big part of, who we are in my department.
Mm-hmm. Right.
No, that's good. And it's something you said a little earlier. I was, like you said, we don't have as many fires we used to. the what I've learned in my transition from a nice sizable department like St. Louis and going over to Collinsville. In St. Louis, we had 30 firehouses and over 650 firefighters, over 350 people that worked in the Bureau of EMS. And so there was, you could, like you said, you could front load a lot of stuff. First alarm, like we may, you may have, 40, 50 people on the first alarm, depending on, all the equipment we had there. Here in Collinsville, Illinois, it's only 2 firehouses and 36 firefighters, which means I tease them all the time. I said, this whole department is the first alarm in St. Louis, and, but what it has taught me and the reason that training needs it more, and it was a revelation of sorts that I came to, because I came kind of with the attitude like, well, I came from a department bigger than this. So this wouldn't be as challenging to, do the training and things like that. The reason it's more challenging is because in St. Louis, I was spoiled. And when you spoil with a sizable department, the unfortunate thing, it's good and bad. It's good because you got enough people who can show up and show out quickly and mitigate the situation. The bad thing about it is a good place to hide for people who aren't as progressive and think intelligently. So it's a good place for them to hide because, with the resource allocation. In Collinsville, you can't hide.
You can't hide.
It's only 36 and is 8 minimum per shift.
Right.
Which means we get a house fire, it's 2 people showing up, it's two apparatuses and 2 medic units showing up. And we got to wait for mutual aid to show up to kind of fill in the rest of the gaps. Well, everybody better be on point knowing what they're supposed to do and be relatively good at it, because the fire does not discriminate. It don't say, well, we're over here in Collinsville, so unlike St. Louis, we might burn a little hotter and a little faster and whatever because they got more people. Over here, we're going to tone it down a bit because it's not that many. Fire, the mitigating of the fire is still the same. But now what makes it almost have to be even more intelligent in fighting the fire in Collinsville is because you have less resources that have to produce the same results with limited resources, which means that you have to be, there's nowhere to hide. And so you have to show and prove, when it's fire time. And you can't use the excuse, well, if only we had more people. No, you the more people.
Yeah. And I think that's a challenge for a lot of departments. And the message I always try to give is you have to know your department's resource package, and you have to fight fire and operate on an emergency like your culture allows you to. You in Collinsville can't operate the way that we do in my department because to your point, you send 8 people, we've seen 50. But if you compare St. Louis and my department, then it's similar. So the operations are similar. So that's the message I'm always afraid of, because you have young firefighters at these smaller departments, good people, good intentions. They want to go in there and do a good job, but they try to do these operations like they're these large, massive departments with these response packages, and they just don't have that. And so they go into these events trying to be something or some organization or not. And that's an issue for me, because we're sending them to these events and they're doing the best they can with 4 and 5 people. But think about what they have compared to what these larger departments have. We can't, the message like I don't give is fight fire like we do. No, you can't, because you're not us. You are Collinsville. You have 8 people. You have to focus on the safety and the operations of extinguishing that fire as best you can while your mutual automatic aid comes and helps you. And, that's a time thing to where you have to be patient. And for a firefighter, it's hard to be patient, but you also have to be intelligent about why you're doing what you're doing. And to your point, that's where the training comes into play for you, because you're teaching your people to be very tactful.
Right. I teach one of the things I do is on top of the things we're required to do through, the state and, and our different boxes we have to check with OSHA and ISO and NFPA and OSFM and all that, is that I do a little thing we call Sunday school. And Sunday school is strictly me. I don't have to worry about meetings. I don't have to worry about my uniform. I don't have to worry about anything. I come over there on Sunday for 2 hours, and all we do is drill on basic stuff. And the basic stuff, a lot of times people say, well, I already know this. Well, impress me, So how fast can we
What
get
do
our
you
stuff
know, and
on?
how well do you know it?
And so my motto for Sunday school is we're not teaching you anything new. We're teaching you what you thought you knew. And when I say that, I mean that if you can get your turnout gear on in 20 seconds, let's make it 15, because it's only 8 of us. If you can get, if the nation averages to get water in a certain amount of time, let's see how much we could beat that time, because there's only 8 of us. And then, and I tell them all the time, I said, I want to create a culture with us, and a lot of great firefighters in Collinsville that feel the same way, especially the young people, because they hungry to exercise the knowledge of stuff they learn. But I say, you've heard them stories where it was 300 people get off the boat, and they had to go fight the war with 3,000, and they burned the boat, so there'd be no retreat. And then they whooped the stew out of the 3,000 with just the mighty 300. I said, that's the kind of mentality we got to have. If we have to march across the Mississippi to St. Louis and burn the bridge, then we should be able to be just as good as they are, and not just be impressed by their numbers, but be impressed by our abilities. But we can only do that through constant training and sharpening that saw of these basic skills. And that's the mind flip that I had to do coming there, because in St. Louis, you got hydrants on almost every corner. The Mississippi River feeds all of that. You got 30 firehouses strategically placed. We can be anywhere within less than 5 minutes. And we do the aggressive interior attack, and everybody has a job. First in has a job, second has a job, third in. And when everybody does their job, then it's sweet. And I was telling them too that, and maybe I've been in some places I should have been, and you learn from that or whatever. But if I kicked in the door and crawled down the hall making a search, and maybe I got in there sooner than I should have in some cases. But guess what? The reason I could be a little gangster with that, because I can hear the other companies coming. And I knew it was just a short amount of time they're going to start opening things up, ventilating. I'm going to get some help, hauling the line in. That's going to happen. So I could be a little aggressive on the front end, because I knew the cavalry was going to be there in short amount of time. In Collinsville, you got to think about that, because the next in may not be there for 10 or 15 minutes if they're coming from mutual aid. So to your point, you can't fight it the same way as you did with knowing that the 28s, the 30s, the 24s, when I was at the 13s, they on our tail. They're going to be there. We trying to beat them in, because we know they're trying to beat us in to our whole house fire. But you ain't got that in Collinsville. This is so-and-so. We're 10 minutes out. 10 minutes, you know how much can happen in 10 minutes,
Oh, yeah.
So it's like you said, to your point, it's different,
It is. And we try to focus so much more today on just the firefighting aspect of it, because we look at our data, and, when they come into our department, our new recruits, we educate them. We tell them we're all hazards. We do hazmat, USAR, we fight fire, active shooter events. We have a lot of hurricane deployments. We have a great group of people right now that are deployed to North Carolina, and they've been there for 5 or 6 days. One of our BC of special ops, he's been there for 8 days. And, these guys are very skillful. They're very knowledgeable at what they do. And that's what we want our new people to understand, is that, yes, our name is firefighter, but very little of what we do is that actual task. We're so much more all hazard today.
Right.
And I really think that's what the beauty of the profession is. That's why people love firefighters, because we can come and we make good decisions based on us being that blue collar worker, to where we can do a lot of things with our hands. And, we have a lot of very good people in our organization that can do that. And so in recruit school, we start to hit on that, and we try to make them understand, the mental health side of it too. One of the first things we talk about in recruit school is mental health and resiliency, and the resources that we have for that. Before they even put their gear on, we're already educating them on the resources that they can use now, but also throughout their career as a leader, as a battalion chief, even further than that. And I think that goes back to, our entire conversation has been about the principles, and, those principles that I
Yeah.
was taught at the Citadel, there's an acronym I live by, and the acronym is actually leaders, and each one of those letters has a specific meaning for that. But when you find an acronym or you find the principles that you live by and you lead by, it allows you to make consistent decisions. It takes people's names out of it. It takes personalities out of it. And like I went to a school, and I have my ring is what I'm showing you. It's the Citadel ring, and to have this ring, you go to school for 4 years, and basically one of the rules is a cadet does not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. And I've lived by that since I was in school. I mean, one of my friends, he went there for 4 years, and his last month of school, he was kicked out of school because he cheated on a paper. And then another one of my friends, he was kicked out of school because he lied about where he was at all ends at night, which is your accountability. 4 years out because he lied. And so a lot of these things are deeply ingrained to me about doing the right things for the right way for the right reasons. And then, when June 18th happens, it even ingrains it in me more. So I'm wired a little different than most people, and I do understand that. I have a very fine line of right and wrong, and I have to work on that personally because I am not perfect by far. I've made plenty of mistakes, but I am very specific about things that that can be allowed and cannot be allowed as a firefighter, just as a person. And I have to work on that I'm working on that myself because it's something I've always struggled with.
Yeah. I mean, the world and the kind of world we live in today, if we had more of that, we probably would have less problems. And there's nothing wrong with tolerance. There's nothing wrong with inclusion, acceptance of certain things. But there are certain things that just, I think, should not be compromised. And when they are, and we have that what they call that, what's that phrase they use to get deviance in it? Something of deviance. But anyway, can't think of it now.
Normalization.
Normalization of deviance. I mean, that's I mean, but you can't have that. You can have it in the fire service, but you definitely, if you practice, but as me and my brother David teach, if you do certain things as David would say, this is how you get down. This is this is you. This is what you do. Then you don't have to walk in and all of a sudden change it when you walk in the firehouse. Like all of a sudden, I better leave my normalization of deviance in the car, and then I'm gonna come in. And I'm going to be principled because that's what the system.
You don't have the muscles to sustain it when you do that.
Right. You can't do it. Right.
And to me, it's fake. It's an act, and I don't want fake leadership. I don't want you acting. I want you to be authentic to who you are and your principles. And I think when you have the authenticity, people do appreciate that. They may not agree with your decision. They may not agree with why you're making the decision, but the hope is that they respect that you're being consistent based on the reasons why you're doing it.
Right.
And that's something the Citadel taught me at 17 years old, and I've hung on to that. And I think people do gravitate towards that if you can focus on it. It is hard to do because there's a lot of different opinions pulling you in different directions. I totally get that. I struggle with that too because, I have to make hard decisions as well in my new position. And they're very difficult because they pull at my heartstrings sometimes because, in my department, I started scrubbing toilets and I've gone through every operational rank, and everybody that I work with on, leadership as the BCs, most of them were senior to me. So some of the BCs today, they taught me how to drive a fire truck. They taught me how to pull hose. And, I'm always respectful of that. But then I have to also realize that I'm in a position that has to make some very intense decisions. So those conversations have to happen sometimes. And I think that's good growth, for all of the leadership of an organization to be able to do that in a tactful way. And I'm not always good at it. I know that. And I think the people I work with know that, and that I'm always trying to work on it because I am emotional when it comes to our profession, but I'm very emotional when it comes to the organization I work for. And I think that's because of everything that we've been through and because of the ones that are still with us. There's 51 that are still on the job. And I always find myself, I want to represent them well. I want to represent them and make those people proud who allowed me to be in the position I am today. Right. And hope that they realize that we can do it. We can lead our organization. We are smart. We are intelligent individuals. It took us some time to get our feet underneath us. And find our way. And we found our way. And we have our fire chief right now. He's from Durham, North Carolina. He's been with us for over 6 years. So he's been the longest fire chief we've had since the fire. And he's really made some great changes on the leadership side, the education side, on the leadership side of where we do a lot of meetings together and trainings with the chief officers, but also we try to do that with the captains, and then the captains are now, teaching their crews certain things. Right. And I think, we're going in a really good direction, and that's based on, leadership that we do have in place now. And, the hope is that we continue in a positive direction. We don't always get it right. We know that. But I think when you stick to your principles, the decisions can be respected a lot more.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tell people all the time that I'm too old to be cared about people liking me. So I'm less concerned about being liked, but I'm more concerned about being respected. But I know that respect is earned. So when I say I want to be respected, I'm not saying I want to be respected like respect me just, arbitrarily. I mean, respect me because that's what I work to earn. I don't work to earn you liking me. I work to earn. Now, if you like me along the way, that's great. That's a great addition, but it's not the core. The core is to respect. I'm going to respect you. I want you to respect me, and we respect each other. Then whatever benefits come from that, because at the end of the day, like you said, you might be put in a position if we just based in our relationship on liking each other, and especially if I'm in a position, I might have to say something that's not easy to say, or have to write you up or anything like that, then it's going to be hard if we get our relationship totally based on like.
And just that, and that's the hollow thing. But if you've established a culture where everybody is operating on those principles and on those values, and you have a shared value of excellence and shared principles of training and of integrity, like what you're talking about, then when a person messes up on the team and they know that they have to be disciplined for that mess up, they have to be written up or whatever, it's not a thing they say, oh great, listen, do you want to use my pen? It's not that, but they do understand that that's part of the thing, and they're okay with because they want to make the team look good, they want to make themselves be somebody that everybody can be proud of as well, and they respect you as a leader enough to want what's best for you. So all of that together in that culture, it makes having to have those conversations not nearly as difficult as a conversation based solely on the cotton candy that is like, you know what I mean? And so if that's all it is, then that'll dry up at the first conference.
But you also ought to be always wanting to learn not just your skills for fighting a fire. I'm just using that one because we're talking to firefighters, but your skill for knowing how to work as a team, your skills for knowing how to respect your leadership, and there's a lot of principles like that that you need to learn as well, because the kind of work you do, especially that would apply with any kind of work really, but especially certain jobs like what you guys do. Teamwork, really is an essential thing to have, but it's respect. You ain't got to like you. I mean, if I do, that's fine, but what we need to make sure we do is respect the fact that you're following what we're teaching.
For sure. And I think, to your point, like Mama makes a good point right there. I think that's why she has wisdom, because she's seen a lot in her time. I go back to it's business. Like, we're going to have some heated discussions. And I'm not the person that says all discussions should be very dry and vanilla and boring. Like, if you get passionate and get heated with me, I'm all good with that. And I think there is a lot of value to that. I think because the way that we have discussions sometimes as chiefs, I mean, we get emotional and we talk hard things, but afterwards, I would hope we'd walk out and we'd be, good personally. But, like what Larry was saying earlier, I don't think anyone doesn't want to be liked. Like, I don't want my other people I work with not to like me. I'm not that person. I want them to like me because I want them to appreciate the decision we make. But I know that there's times in a business decision that they may not like the decision. I would hope that they can separate the decision from me as a person. And sometimes we can and sometimes we can't. And I'm not always good at that. Sometimes I walk out of discussions that I'm upset at a person, and I know that I shouldn't be. And a few minutes later, I get over it. But the goal is like just have an understanding of that. I understand, and I'm okay when there are these discussions, because to me, I want you to have some passion. We were having a discussion today, and there was a guy that was getting passionate. I just looked at him. I said, I love it. Just keep going. Like, you don't have to apologize anything, because I want to hear it. I want to see you have some life, some passion for what we do. And, when I see that, I know that the gas tank is full and people are wanting to make these changes and they're wanting to do things. And so it's a little different perspective, I think, for some in leadership. Sure. And I totally understand that. But to me, passion resonates with people. When you talk to someone who's passionate about their craft, no matter what it is, if it's military, Navy SEAL, Green Beret, it doesn't professional athlete, when they talk about their craft and you see it oozing out of them who they are, I mean, that shows something about the passion they have for it. And I think that passion is that candle that lights that fire in you and keeps you going and going to work every day. That's beauty.
That's
true. You want passion in firefighter, because if you don't, I hate when people say, and I've heard it said before, and I guess I can kind of understand it. I just don't comprehend it as well. When, well, it's just a job. Well, anybody could do this job. Was kind of that mentality. No. And when I say, and I had the recruit class that's going on down at the St. Louis Fire Department, is the Ben Paulson Memorial Fire Recruit class. So they wanted me to come in and say a few words, which I did at the beginning of the class. And I was just telling them, I said, there are firefighters and then there are people who work for the fire department. Which one are you? And I was trying to differentiate between the two. Firefighters, they don't wait for the department to pay for it. They say, that's something I need to know. That's something that's going to make me better. That's something that's going to make me an asset to the team. And then I said, if I had a dollar for every time I paid for stuff on my own, I could just be retired, period. But the fact of the matter is that there are a lot of things that I just had to, I had to be where the action was. So I paid for it, to learn that particular thing. And the department, I didn't feel like going through the red tape or their budget or whatever the case may be. I just did it. So to me, that represents my end vision of being a firefighter. If I just work for the fire department, I'll say, well, it's our business. They want me to go, they'll send me. They don't want me to go, I don't know. And I'm thinking, like, if there's something out there you need to know that not knowing could possibly kill you, then why wouldn't you try to make an effort to do it? And I'm not saying try to go to everything. I'm not saying take food out your kids' mouth, or be responsible, of course. But there, when everybody tells me I can't do it, I can't afford it, I might just go out. I had this one guy tell me that one time we was in the parking lot, and I was like, which one of them is your car? He showed me it's a nice ride, the nice wheels on the tinted. I was like, that's a nice car. And I didn't come out and say it, but I think he knew what I was saying. Like, that is a nice car, nice wheels on it, the tint. I hear you got a booming system, man. I see where your passion is. So the point I was trying to make to him that he kind of caught on to is that, we pay for what we want. So I'm not trying to make, like I said, I'm not trying to make a point that, I lost my house because I was pursuing my passion. Be responsible. But there's definitely things that we know that you pay for that goes against the grain that you probably shouldn't be paying for. And all you got to do is replace that particular risk with maybe learning something that can make you better. And then that's a firefighter. People who work for the fire service, I could take this job, believe it. Tomorrow I might be working at Burger King, but today I'm just going to do this firefighter thing, whatever. And to me, that's the difference between somebody who's going to make the push and somebody who's not going to make the push, which can make a difference between what's going on with your team or maybe what's Miss McGillicuddy trapped in the house, And so you got to have, like you said before, you got to have that. You got to have that passion,
But then it's back to that personal responsibility, isn't it? Because it's that you not taking accountability for your own growth as a firefighter or growth in the fire service or how much of an asset you are to the team. That's that's a thing that is on you, and you have the choice to either say I'm going to be responsible for that and for making sure that improves, or saying I'm going to shift that responsibility to the department and say they want me to go,
Right.
they'll pay for me to go. And if they don't pay for me to go, then I'll just not be as good as I could have been, or not be as big. That it becomes, the excuse, I should say, becomes a lot more clear in that, in that instance, as opposed to the person who's taking personal responsibility, who is that firefighter, not the person who works, for the fire department. That those two people, how they get down, as we were talking about earlier, becomes
Right.
increasingly more clear by that action or by the.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what can a department, offer. Like, we're very blessed in our organization. We have a tuition reimbursement program that pays up to a specific amount of money, 85% of your tuition. So we have a large percentage of our department that goes to school and they want to be educated. We have a lot of people that go to conferences off duty. We have a lot of people that go to classes. And, one of our biggest things we're trying to increase is our budget for our special operations, because we have probably 280 or so special operations personnel in our department. And, with our current budget, we're trying to balance it to where we can send them to certain trainings, but we don't have the budget that we would want, which obviously we're a municipality and we don't. And, so our assistant chief of special ops, he's doing a really good job of trying to balance that. And, we've listened to feedback, and, I want to be the leader that's able to offer opportunities for education, but also realize that, the beauty of today is, like, if you're watching this podcast you can watch it at the Firehouse free of charge, and you're learning hopefully something valuable. Whether you like our message or not, you're listening, you're engaging, and you're getting a message. There's so many online courses today on not just fighting fire, but leadership, EMS, active shooter, all of these things that are free of charge you can do in your station. You just have to know how to find the resources. So a lot of it's just the willingness and passion to go find the education that maybe you're able to do based on your financial background or where your funding goes. I totally get all of that, but I think there's ways to work through that situation to at least you understand and you read trade magazines. I got a trade magazine right here, Fire Engineering, Firehouse, all these other IFC journals, all these magazines that, good people with a lot of experience take time to write articles in. And a lot of those are online, free of charge. And I think that's a really cool evolution in our profession today. It doesn't have to so much be in person. And yes, you want hands-on training. I totally understand that. But the goal is, if you're going to classes and you're going to learning and you're listening to podcasts, your mind is taking all of this information. And so when it comes time to make that decision, you'd be amazed what's going through your mind of things you've heard and you've listened in conversation. And that's the beauty of it today.
Yep. And I tell people all the time when but I'm not there anymore. So I always keep saying we, but St. Louis, but no, it's always going to be we, because that's my, but St. Louis just got through with their promotional exam, and their promotional exam. There are a few people I helped mentor through taking the promotional exam, but even before then, one of the things that I would always advise was, just like you said, take advantage of these podcasts and training and things you can afford, and double down on that kind of stuff, because the decisions you make during the promotional exam, whether it's the written or the oral part of it, or any problem solving, you'd be surprised that when you feed in your mind with this kind of stuff, that when you find yourself at that impasse, what kind of decisions do I make here? Because what's presented to me is not fitting in necessarily in this box of what I studied. Because no matter how much you study, you can't cover everything. So there comes a time where you just got to make this educated decision. But in order to make an educated decision, the key word being educate, then you had to be educated in the first place. Unless you're going to be making a very uneducated decision. But maybe it was something on the podcast.
Key word.
Yeah, but maybe it was something on the podcast, or maybe it was something at the training, or maybe it was something that you listened to a mentor say that helped you say that I don't know the exact answer because this was in my study. However, based on my educated decision, because I've been to a few things, I've done a few things, and I'm always feeding, then I'm able to make a decision that probably is going to be more favorable to me getting a little higher point than the person who didn't. Or if I'm a firefighter, I'm probably going to score a little bit better than a person who just worked for the fire service, And when you constantly feeding that, because that's the attitude, that's your principle, that's your personal leadership, then you increase your chances of advancement and increase your chance of not just advancement, but probably saving your life on the fire ground.
Yeah, and you're making better decisions. Education and training and conversations and podcasts and reading, it allows you to make better decisions. It doesn't necessarily make you better at a profession, but when you're making better decisions, essentially you're going to be better at whatever your craft is. And that's why I like to talk about this more on a global scale than just like fighting fire, being a firefighter, because this is really the essence of what we do. This is how you operate your podcast. This is how I operate when I go and speak. This is how your mom was a mom.
Mm-hmm.
These are all things that are specific to people being people. And when you break it down to the most simplistic form, it allows you to be the best at your craft. And I've always wondered, why would you be a part of a craft or anything in life that you don't want to be the best at? That's just counterintuitive to me.
Yeah.
Everything that I was ever taught by my mom and my dad in school was you be the best you can and you give everything you have to that profession, whatever it may be, whatever your hand finds to do it with all your might. I mean, that's a powerful quote my dad told me. And that's right. Whatever your hand finds to do it with all your might. And if you're not doing it with all your might, then really, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Are you doing the work that you could be doing? Are you doing the best work for your people and the people you're surrounding yourself with and your followers? And that's what I go back to. When there's days I have a hard time, thinking about my position, because at my current position, I do admin stuff. So I do all the hiring processes, I do budget, and I have a very good team. But doing admin stuff is different than I was doing as a firefighter. So I have to reestablish in my mind, I'm going to work today to do spreadsheets in the budget to make sure people have money to work in their stations, to make sure they're safe on a fire scene, to make sure their apparatus is running, to make sure the maintenance of the station is taken care of, to make sure we're working for a new budget for next year. We're working on these different trainings for our people next year. We're building out resiliency training for our people. All these things I have to make it more simple in my brain, because sometimes I feel like in my position, it's just not a position that, is very purposeful to me, because I'm a very active, engaged kind of person as being a firefighter. But to my point in this is that there's positions that you're doing that you may not understand that they're very, very important. They might seem like they're not, but they really, really are. And I've had to really coach myself up on that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not in the firehouse with the crews. I miss being there. I miss running calls. I miss all of that. But the balance of that is I enjoy being in a position to know that I've worked in those firehouses. I've driven those fire trucks. I've worked with and under those battalion chiefs. I've worked with those captains. I've trained the guys that are captains now. I trained them in recruit school, and now we're pinning them with a captain's badge. So that to me it's so powerful. And I think that's where my fire inside of me comes from, because as I look around our organization, I've only been there 20 years, but that's like a long time for us because we lost a lot of people after the fire. So, when I look around, there's just a lot of young, good people trying to make good decisions, and to know that I can be a part of that with my position now as budget, it means something to me. So that keeps me engaged all the time.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I needed that reinforcement. I think I've felt that way, but to hear somebody else kind of going through that same process, because you got to remember, after 30 years of putting on the bunker gear and jumping on the truck and going to work, it was kind of a culture shock. Number one, just to get up every day. I was like, who keep letting this damn alarm clock go off? But it was time to get up again. It was like Groundhog Day. Like, damn, again. I'm used to at least 4 days for this to happen. So that, and then just the routine of Monday through Friday. But but like you said, I began to find joy in what I do when I go out and see some of the things we've done as our crew, my fire chief, our chief of ops, and myself, and we operate as the three-head monster of administration. And we take care of business that benefits our firefighters, whether, like you said, is addressing our mental health, and or whether it's getting new fire apparatus, or getting some of the things that they say that's going to make their job better, and we go to bat for them at the local hospitals, or go to bat for them at City Hall. And I'm part of that new way of serving the fire service. It like I said, it takes a minute to make that adjustment, but I'm beginning to understand exactly what you're saying. And like, you still making an impact, because they can't do what they do unless we successfully do what we do. So you're still working, you're just in a different capacity. So like you said, work this hard, become good. I feel like I can get better every day. My typing has got a lot better. My language, my language got a lot better in email. Cause back when you were just a company officer, you could just send anything. Like, that's dumb, send, whatever. But now you got to be a little more tactful, and then I'm taking college courses now, like critical thinking. So my critical thinking. So now, so now when I talk, I'm like, like I could type better and talk better, advise better. And it's just, so it's a whole new. You're a new guy in the different aspect of the fire service, but like you said, to your point, what I'm doing is making an impact on what they're doing, and if that's the case, then it helps with the psyche of making that transition.
That's the efficiency effective piece that we talk about.
We talked about when David and I, that was part of the new program I wrote for FDIC, because it's based on my experiences. I've always, in the street, been effective. But being in administration is teaching me to be efficient. And so when I'm as efficient as I can be, they can be as effective as they need to be. But you can't have a complete fire department without both of them. You got and so I do feel blessed in a lot of ways to be able to serve in this capacity and continue to evolve. Is not only as a firefighter, and like you said, the chief thing, it's a cool thing to have. It's a cool thing to be called. But at the end of the day, I'm just a guy who now got to serve more people. Before I used to serve a engine company. Now I got to serve a department. And so I think my training in trying to do right by my people and my crew at the Firehouse prepared me for serving a bigger audience now in the fire department. So that's a cool feeling.
I think it's your credibility is like what you're getting at is credibility. And I think your credibility, like to you, your credibility is there because you have done the job in St. Louis and you've come over to another department. In our department, I appreciate the fact that when you move through each rank, you have to do the rank before and you have to gain that credibility. And, for me, I've been very appreciative of the opportunities I've received being a battalion chief, then a shift commander, and then in this position, because while I didn't have that long in certain positions, I was able to learn a lot very quickly. So now when I'm in this position, when a shift commander says something, I understand their challenges because I was a shift commander for a few years. I understand why they're having these hardships with their crews or with people. I understand the personality challenges. So I think the education piece for them is it's credibility. And I hope that, I have the credibility and that they appreciate the credibility, that I understand the lens they're looking through, because I've looked through their lens of probationary firefighter, backup driver, engineer, acting captain, acting BC, shift commander, and now my new position. And I think there's a lot of value in that. And I think we do a really good job in our organization of making our people go through those different positions, but also as they're doing that, we're mentoring and we're educating them before they get into them. And, the most recent thing that we've created is called an Assistant Chief Fire Marshal Emergency Management Academy. So this is for battalion chiefs who have an interest in becoming an assistant chief or a fire marshal or part of the emergency management division. And so this is going to be for battalion chiefs that can come in and we can mentor them on, I can teach them basic skills that I do as the administration chief of how we do hiring, how we do budgeting, how we fill out these forms. While they won't get that high level of knowledge on that little class we do, at least when they come into the position, they have an idea of what they're getting themselves into. I really didn't have that. I had a computer, a desk, and a keyboard, and I pretty much had to figure it out.
Google,
which is fine. I appreciated that. That's what most people have done in the past. I just want to make sure one day, when I step away, that I've identified someone who can do my job better than me, that they make me a long forgotten person, that what I did was comical compared to what they can do. And I'm very true to that. That's what I think mentorship and coaching is. I want people to be better than me.
Yeah.
I don't find people that are coming through the ranks as competition for me. I want them to be better than me. There's BCs right now that I hope they're assistant chiefs with me one day, and hopefully they pass me. That's the beauty of it. That's the love and the passion I have for the job. I think when you're a leader and you start to see people around you as competition and you're not mentoring and coaching, I think you start to have an erosion of the team and the balance of why you're doing what you're doing.
Right.
So I think with that assistant chief academy, our 6 assistant chiefs are really passionate about making sure the ones that replace us, they're better than us, and the system is better, and the leadership is better, which in turn makes the department better. So when we're retired, we can look back and say,
I helped,
but now it's better than me.
No, that's we call that succession planning, and if you don't have that in your as part of your vision, then you're doing the department a disservice, and so and I got my eye on a few people as well, and I try to include a few people into what I do, because when I first got to Collinsville, they didn't have an official training division. So part of my job is not just having a job, but having a mission to build a training division. So my end vision in building that training division is to leave them, when I retire again, is to leave them with something that they take this and then, like you said, build upon, make it better, and do what they got to do. So they're not starting from scratch like I've had to do. And then they can just go ahead and just build on it and make it even better. So it's not just, I can't think of it as like mine. It's our department, it's our training division, and I need to be looking for the next person ready to step up and then and sit in that chair and make those decisions and expound on what we started, laying that foundation, laying that groundwork for them to carry on.
And you got to identify them.
Mine.
Well, you want to make sure you identify them too. I relate everything to sports. In sports, when I was a college baseball coach, I was an intern before I became a firefighter for a couple years. And the job of a college baseball coach is to identify talent in high school, recruit that talent, and bring them into the fold and teach them the message of your culture and your team. You identify people who can do the job, and you coach and mentor them to get them able to do the job. And along the line, you'll have some anomalies in that system where people will surprise you, right? But, I'm a big fan of sports. Like, performance to me is everything. Like, if you perform as a good athlete, you're going to make the all-star team. If you have poor performance, you're not going to make the all-star team. So everything I do is based on performance. If you're good at this position, more than likely, you'll probably be good at the next one. To me, it's a simple recipe. Sports proves that all the time. And I think if we start thinking in those lenses, you identify the ones that are going to go from single A baseball to the big league. That's just that's part of life. Some people can do that. Some people can't. I couldn't do that in baseball. I was in single A. I couldn't do it. I never made it to the big leagues. It's just part of life. It's you understanding everybody has a limit and you're topped out at a certain skill set. But when you start to realize that as a leader, I start looking. I start looking for people. I'm like, all right, who can look at this budget and who can make this budget better? Who can lead better than me? Who can have these discussions better than me? Who can build out our recruitment better? And I think that's the beauty of leadership, because you can identify those people and make them better, which makes your department better. I love it.
Yeah, I do too. I got a few people that key people that I could call on, and I take their ideas. I just don't say just to check a box. Hey, I checked with somebody for their ideas to support leadership. Yes. No. Right. When they look at some of the outcomes of some of the stuff I put together, they can look at it and say, yeah, I had a hand in it. And that empowers the whole team. And empowering the whole team, especially when it's 36, then you better empower the team, because that's what's going to make it all good. As we start to draw things to a close, because definitely we could talk all night. And and of course, if we were doing a podcast for people who's traveling from Los Angeles to New York, this would be great, but we're not, but seriously, so you're coming to the region.
Yes, sir.
And so tell us about the 2 dates you're coming to the region. And since you're coming to the other place first, you can shout them out first before, and just kind of give us a brief synopsis of what you're going to be discussing when you make it to the region.
Absolutely. So we're going to O'Fallon here soon. We'll be there. I don't know the specific date off the top of my head. It's hard to keep it all straight. Thankfully, my wife is very organized and she has a schedule for me.
Yes.
So we're going there very soon, and we're going to be doing a principal leadership class along with some resiliency training. That's going to be a full-day class. And then we come to you in Collinsville. We'll be doing, in honor of the Charleston Nine, we'll talk about our event we had, and then we'll also talk about where we are today, 17 plus years later, because we want people to know us for what we did after the event, not because of what happened on the event. And so that's really the goal of that class. So it'll be 2 different messages on those 2 classes, which I think is beautiful, because people in your area, if they come to both classes, they're going to get 2 different, different messages, but different core courses of class, because of what one's a little bit more lecture based and one's a little bit more discussion based, along with mental health training. So it's really a good idea if you can come to both classes, and I think we'll have a good turnout for both. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, the one you're talking about in those other people's, no, but seriously, I'll shout them out. It's going to be in O'Fallon, Missouri, and O'Fallon, Missouri is a suburb of the St. Louis area, and it's you're going to be doing the principal leadership from the Road Less Traveled by Dr. David Griffin, and you're going to be talking about it's going to be highly interactive and scenario-based programming. Attendees will develop their leadership skills and supportive environment with their peers alongside a modern leader who has 22 years of principal leadership experience with the education to coincide. A fire will be sparked in the inside of each attendee. I like that. Good market, a lot of fire. While also offering them a chance to develop a fun, productive, modern, and challenging class, And so anyway, come out Friday. That'll be October 25th from 9 to 3. It's going to be at the crossing at Miss Rivers. That's 6000 West Geneva Drive in O'Fallon, Missouri. And that's going to be contact any questions, contact Andy Parrish of the O'Fallon, Missouri Fire Department. So shout out to them. And of course, for the best show. No, but anyway, but our show will be December 3rd in Collinsville, Illinois at the Gateway Convention Center. We got about I think we got 6,000 seats, so we'll fill those up for you. No, but no, we'll be at the LaSalle Room at the Gateway Center. That's going to be December 3rd. There will be a $30 cover charge, and when you come on in, you'll get a flyer soon coming out showing you how you can pay for it. Hopefully you can pay for it beforehand, because we don't really want to take all the cash at the door. And lunch is included, sponsored by 1-800 Board Up. So you get, and last year, we do in Collinsville, but we call it a National Speaker Series. And I'm blessed to be linked to a lot of national speakers. I got a lot of great friends that I used to read their stuff and see their articles and see them on stage. It's like, wow, maybe one day they'll know my name. And by golly, they do. No, but seriously, but we had a good friend, Rick Lassie, come. That was my first guest, and he came and rocked the house.
He's one of the OGs.
Yeah, one of the OGs. He came and did. He did it. Yeah, exactly. He said the pride and ownership. Then last year was our good friend Billy Goldfeather. Billy came down, and he knocked it out the park. And I was like, well, what can we do this year? Who can we get? Dr. David Griffin. So in the Mount Rushmore of people who came to Collinsville so far, your face is up there. You got the Lasky, you got the Goldfeather, and you got the Griffin, all up there.
And got the OGs, man.
The older guys. So anyway, I'm just proud to be able to bring that type of national education to this region. And so come on. You're in Missouri. We had people driving all the way from Kentucky one of them, so come through, check us out. It's going to be a great all-day event. It's going to be from 9 to 5 at the Gateway Convention Center. And and last year when they did the I'm gonna have to talk to them because I don't know how we should do this. Last year when they had the lunch was so. I mean, it was like one of those like Thanksgiving lunches. It wasn't just like a box lunch. I mean, they had like mashed potatoes and string beans. I mean, it was just truly sit down with some beef and gravy. So my point is, as good as that, but as good as that was. The speaker, you gonna have to be on point, Dave, after lunch.
I have to be on point after lunch.
I just gonna kick in, man, the mashed potatoes. Man.
I'm glad you warned me. I'm glad you warned me. I'll be ready.
Hey, I'm just telling you. That can be. So I mean,
you drinking Yeti cups of Red Bull.
You gotta bring the pain in the afternoon, player, because man, Boston mashed.
I got a little trick for the afternoon.
Yeah. Boston mashed potatoes and gravy kick in. You got some competition. So I'm just telling you, man.
You have to change your presentation to a Zumba class.
Some inside competition.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it was, man, I'm telling you, but the first year they did, I was like, okay, it's going to be some nice little box lunches, some ham sandwiches and bologna. No, they walked in. You can smell it when they're walking in. People sitting there like, you smell that? It smelled like
you just sold 6,000 tickets just by saying what's for lunch.
Right. So I was like, man. So when people eating, they was like, man, this is good stuff. So that's what you're gonna get in Collinsville. You're gonna get some
well fed. Both ways.
You're gonna be well fed both ways. Yeah, right. Dr. Griffin and Dr. whoever cooks the food. Right.
I know you were working on it. I know you were working on it, Larry, when you were working on the program, but were you all able to get Beyonce to open up for him?
Yeah, well, we're still working on that. Jay-Z is a little possessive. He heard I was going to be there. He was like, oh, no, player. That dude was too delicious. No. But seriously, so it's going to be a great fall for the area. Come to O'Fallon in October. Come to Collinsville in December and hear two great presentations by Dr. David Griffin. He's not just a one-trick pony, y'all. He can do it all. So we're looking forward to spending some time with you this winter and this fall. No, it'll still be fall by then, but. Uncle Larry don't like the winter. Everybody knows me. Knows I'm a tropical brother.
Me too.
No, I don't like that. So I'm just and my seasonal depression started. Yeah, it started a couple of days ago. But I'll be all right. I'll be all right when you come to town and fire us up. So that'll get me through the winter. But as we close out, I just want to say, man, thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on here. Thanks for agreeing to come visit us in December. And we're really looking forward to it. And I'm always a fan. I follow you on LinkedIn, and you always got some interesting things to say, some interesting perspectives, and stuff to make you go, yeah, think of that, good stuff. Unorthodox as they call it. And I don't know how to spell it, but I know how to say it. Unorthodox. Right.
That's the reason. Unorthodox is the reason.
Yeah. So,
that's what's unorthodox.
Unorthodox.
Right. I know about Google Docs, but not Orthodox. But anyway, we're gonna go out with some closing words, and then we'll see you in our next podcast, which will be in about 7 weeks. So we're gonna have another great guest on to talk about what leadership and whatever that particular guest wants to talk about. So we'll go around. We'll close out. Dr. Griffin, you say a few words, and we'll go to Mama Elaine, David, and I'll back clean up.
No, thanks for everybody for listening tonight. I hope that you found the message good. if you want to check out what we're doing, just go to our Instagram. Instagram is at Dr. David Griffin. LinkedIn is Dr. David Griffin, and we put a lot of content out there. And like Larry said, it is kind of unorthodox. We do poems, we do rap songs, we do. I talk about hard topics that most people don't want to talk about, and the reason why I do that is because I think a speaker, you can't just be a speaker. You have to be someone that has something to say and a message that's actually valuable. So that's why it is unorthodox, and I think that's why people do listen to it. So I thank you for mentioning that, Larry, and I thank you for letting me be on the show tonight, and I hope it was valuable of your time.
It was, brother. Thank you. Mama?
Well, I always enjoy you. You're gonna be a comeback. I'll be pulling for you.
We'll see you in 10 years. No.
No, it's gotta be sooner than
I don't know what I'll be doing in 10 years.
I'll be watching you from heaven.
No, don't say that.
It's gonna be less than 10 years. But no, I was so glad you were gonna be on again because I really enjoyed listening to you for real. And so I mean the show is always pretty good, but some people are, have a little more mix of humor and things like that. So, and I look forward to I might meet you in person, huh?
I hope so, yes, ma'am.
Coming to town.
Come on out to Collinsville for some of the mashed potatoes on the 3rd.
Right, I'm about to say
Better bring Mama to class.
I'll bring Mama.
That's what she's angling for. Y'all,
right. I heard you got turkey in Collinsville. Some cranberry sauce.
You got groceries.
Oh, Dr. Griffin, I didn't know you was going to be here.
Not the grocery store, not Dr. Griffin.
Right.
Icing on the cake.
Yeah, I might as well listen while I'm here, So.
Right.
And speaking of icing on cake, they're gonna have cake with icing on it too.
Right.
They got dessert.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
oh my gosh!
Right.
I just said that,
Yeah, but
I didn't think that was really
it's
going to be a dream come true.
It's on the menu, So.
Oh my goodness! No, but I always, you need to be a regular on the show because you always present so well. So, and I look forward to maybe meeting you in person. So,
All right.
This was a good session.
All right.
David, Doc, it's always a pleasure. It's good also to hear, from people who truly are passionate about, the message and also live their message. And, a lot of people talk about values and about principles, but you don't see a lot of people living it. You don't see a lot of people who, speak on it where you can tell it's coming from the heart, coming from deep inside. So that alone is inspirational. Then when you start hearing, the words, the inspiration increases. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing that with us. It's not going to be 10 years before you're back here. It'll be at least 11. No, I'm kidding. It won't be. It won't.
Or never.
Right. No, we got to get you back sooner than that. But I know you're going to do a great job, when you go to that area in the middle of the country. So look forward to hearing all about it. And send me a plate.
Thanks for coming out, brother. We appreciate it. I always tell when I bring people to Collinsville, whether they're local talent or someone from the national stage, is that I really try to not just put people in front of our audience for just so we could check a box and say that particular topic was covered. I really try to put people who are passionate, knowledgeable, intelligent, and because they tend to resonate and leave a long lasting impression on our audience, and that's what they need. I mean, we got a lot of veterans, a lot of young guys and gals, and on the job, and they're looking for Collinsville to, as our fire chief say, be the leader in the area, and to that vision. That's one of the things that's always part of my variables in making sure that I try to bring the best training to Collinsville. So you coming is a testament to that, and you agreeing to come. I'm glad we were able to work our schedules out so you can make it up here. And I'm looking for you to leave a lasting impression as the previous people are. But, do better. Each person should get better. The person I bring next year should be, leave a more lasting impression than you. And as we keep on moving this thing forward. But thank you for being passionate. That's a seem to be a thing that's not as prevalent today as, or people passionate about stupid stuff. Like you passionate, but that's kind of dumb. So I'm glad you passionate about principle stuff. And when you're passionate about principle stuff, then that's going to leave an impact, the kind of impact we need for our young people, for this country, for our fire service. So thank you for being David Griffin. I've been impressed with you since I saw you speak the first time at Tampa too, when you were just a young David. You've little skinny David with no mustache and all this. So, and now he's Big Willie style. So but seriously, it's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to shake your hand when you get here in Collinsville. And whenever you get here, we'll make those arrangements and make sure that we the hostess with the mostest, so you have a great time here. And I'm sure the fire chief will want to spend some time and take you out to eat and all that kind of stuff. So we'll work on those logistics the closer it gets. But keep doing what you're doing. We'll get you back on soon, because there's so much to unpack here. Because it parallels a lot with Dave and Conley and I talk about, and I think that's why we leave an impact wherever we go, because it's principled. It's principled stuff, and I think people need to hear that. So thank you again, and we'll see you in December for our show. See us back in another 7 weeks for another great show with another great guest. Mama David and myself will bring the flavor like we always do. And if you and let me say this about FDIC, I meant to bring that up. FDIC is coming up in April, so that's really just a few months away. I mean, April, what is October, November, December, January, February, March, April. That's 6 months away. Like, if you was pregnant, it'd be 6 months from now, you'd be having a baby, so is that short amount of time away? 6 months. 6 months away. That just like that. Well, I can remember when David and I were speaking not too long ago, but it was 6 months ago. 6 months, 6 months to go. 6 months ago and 6 months to go for the FDIC 2024 in beautiful downtown Indianapolis. So the reason I'm saying this is because FDIC ain't cheap. So start making your plans now. Figure out what hotel you want to get in and who you want to sleep on the floor with to split that cost. So it's only $11.20 a person, so make sure that you do what you got to do to get there. Be there, be square. So we'll see you there. But you see what I did there?
I did. Trying not to.
I can't help it. It's a gift. I got to use it.
You ain't got to.
We're going to talk about that.
Right. So anyway, so we'll see. Check us out, www.gluenationldc.com. See where me and David are in the world. And as always, stay safe and stay educated, stay intelligent. And then David Griffin, you and I need to come up with a word that merges aggressive and intelligent. So it sounds catchy. We could put it on a shirt and it could stick, so we could save our people. So they ain't intelligent without being aggressive, and they ain't aggressive without being intelligent. We need a good balance of both to be a great person, a great firefighter. So anyway, that's all I got. Signing off. Talk to you guys later.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Breathing in diesel exhaust fumes is like walking into a fire without a mask. Over time, those toxins lead to cancer. Protect yourself with Magnegrip, the easiest, most reliable exhaust removal system that features a true 100% seal to eliminate diesel exhaust fumes. To get free grant assistance, visit Magnegrip.com.
Attention first responders, ready for a new challenge? You can turn your leadership skills into deliciousness by becoming a Firehouse Subs restaurant owner. First responders will receive a $100,000 cash incentive to help open their restaurant. Continue serving after service. Visit firehousesubsfranchising.com today.